our first storyteller, Jay Brooks, is an interfaith minister who studied at the New Seminary. He's a wedding officiant for Weddings by Sandy. He's an organizer, writer, actor, and proud member of the Charm City Kitty Club. Jay Brooks.
So I am an interfaith minister, and just to give you a little background on what that means, it means that I'm kind of the opposite of an atheist. Instead of not believing in a deity, I believe in the possibility of all the deities. And I just believe that it's important for me to meet people where they are, because I believe that all roads, if you walk with a sincere heart, can lead to enlightenment. And my focus is on the spiritual truths that are inherent in all religions, and not to get caught up on the dogma. So I just want to give you a little background. So today, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about 3 stories. I'm going to tell you 3 quick stories, so it's not going to be a lot of fluff and description. I'm just going to boom, 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 give you these stories. And make of them what you will. I'm going to tell stories that involve my experiences with prophetic visions. I could tell stories about remote viewing. I have experiences with that. I could talk about other psychic things that have happened. I'm not clairaudient. I don't hear things. I don't see things. It's just more of a feeling. It's kind of like a vibe in high definition. You know, I just sort of pick up on things. So I'm going to tell you 3 stories, and because I believe in reincarnation, the first 2 will be about death, and the last one will be about birth. Okay, so we're going to go all the way back to high school, 1984, circa 1987. That's when I was in high school. And I had a friend named Jonathan Osby, and really everybody had a friend in Jonathan Osby. I mean, he was just a great guy. He was like super popular. He was tall, very handsome. Everybody liked him. He was a star of the basketball team. He was like a character in a John Hughes movie, but you didn't have to wait till the end to find out he was a good guy. You know, he was just always a good guy. So one night I was taking a nap, because I've always been fond of naps, even in high school, and I had a dream about Jonathan, and I saw him, and he was standing there in his uniform, in his basketball uniform, and he was just standing there in complete darkness. He was the only thing visible in the dream. It was just complete darkness around him, and him standing there, and then all of a sudden in the dream he just falls, and is just swallowed up in the blackness. And so I wake up with a start. I sit up in bed, you know, it's like a movie, like I've never done that before, you know, sweating, I'm panicking, and I knew right away that this, you know, was not a dream, that something was about to happen. So the next day, I go to the basketball game. We had a basketball game. It was like an away game, so all of our team was there, and they're all spiffy in their suits and all, you know, like basketball players do. And even though it was closer to our house, we were all bused, because all the black kids were bused to a faraway school, but this was a very close school. And I couldn't stay at the game, because I knew that something was going to happen. And I remember talking to Jonathan right before I left, and I wanted to say something, but what am I going to say? Like, don't suit up, don't play, like, you know, something is going to occur, the lights are going to go out, I don't know what's going to happen. So I remember looking at him and thinking, this is the last time I'm going to see him. So I went home, and I think I stole some liquor from my father's liquor cabinet, because I just wanted to take the edge off, knowing that something was about to happen, and just kind of waited. And then a couple hours later, my sister comes home crying, and she says that Jonathan had a heart attack and died instantly, wearing his uniform on the basketball court, just collapsed and fell into darkness. And it was a real shock to everybody. You know, it was really crazy. The whole neighborhood, the school. I mean, it was a huge thing. But I wasn't shocked, you know. But I certainly felt guilty for some time. I was grieving, but I also felt guilty because I was like, I wish I could have said something to him, you know. He had a congenital heart condition, the same that took Link Bias out in the same way. He just collapsed. He was 17-year-old, strong, healthy, you know, he just collapsed. Yeah, so I felt pretty bad about that for a while. I mean, I guess I still have some tinges of it from telling this story, but I certainly have learned over the years that nobody dies before their time. And that's given me some peace. So that was Jonathan. So another story. This story just happened. So like I said, I'm just going to move through, so you got to go with me there. It was my Uncle Freddie. So when I was 18, I moved out of my house and I moved to D.C., pretty much to be gay, you know. So right, I don't think that was psychic. I think I was just so I moved to D.C., then moved in with my Aunt Margaret, my Uncle Freddie, and lived there on and off and on. And I say on and off because they would kick me out and then let my trifling drunk ass move back in, you know, and then kick me out again and what have you. So I was not close to my Uncle Freddie because nobody was. He was sort of a nerd and he was kind of a hermit and he was sort of like Scrooge. You know, like when I'm being cheap, my family will call me a little Uncle Freddie, you know. Like duct tape everything in the house and although he was a really high-level G-man and made big money, a mathematician, you know, building rockets and whatnot. Anyway, so he sat in that room for 40 years smoking, and eventually emphysema caught up with him. And, you know, emphysema was very progressive, very quick, so he went downhill pretty quickly. So last fall, you know, he was not doing well, but it wasn't like as if death was imminent, you know, but he wasn't doing well. And I had a little dream. It was a very quick dream. It was right in a hypnagogic state, right before I woke up. And I see my Uncle Freddie at the foot of my bed. And he is dressed in slacks and a shirt, and he was always thin, but now he was, you know, just flesh and bones. And his face was swollen, his chin was swollen, his forehead was swollen, his cheeks were swollen, and I'm like, you know, so I wake up saying, Uncle Freddie? You know, with a question mark, because it didn't look like him, and I was scared, like, who is this figure at the foot of my bed? So after I got myself together and did whatever I do when I wake up, which is, I guess, you know, stare at the wall for 20 minutes or so till I'm fully awake, I called my mother, and she told me she hadn't called me yet because she was on the phone with my Aunt Margaret because my Uncle Freddie had passed away that morning. And they were at the hospital. They had gone for a doctor's appointment. They were going into the hospital. I think they were coming, I don't know if they were going in or coming out, but they were outside of the hospital. He was having issues with his oxygen tank, so my aunt went to get help, and when she came back, he had fallen out of the chair and had hit his head on the pavement. And she said that when you know, they tried to revive him, they couldn't, you know, he never regained consciousness. But after that, when she saw him, she barely recognized him because his face was so swollen because he had fallen on it. So he had his face. So what I saw was what was. So that's that story. So it's another story, and the story's about birth, and it's a quick story because I only have a minute. So my sister was pregnant, and this was, you know, a cause for great joy, as it is usually when people are pregnant. And, you know, when she was married, she had a job. It was good. So she was pregnant, and but we were also worried because when my first niece was born, she was a pound and 15 ounces. She was a tiny little thing, stayed in the hospital for 3 months. You know, it was very dramatic. And then a couple of, maybe like a year or so later, she got pregnant again. She had a very difficult pregnancy, and I never even met that baby because Michael passed away within a couple of hours of being born. So the third time she was pregnant, because she was really determined to have kids, the third time she was pregnant, we were all very worried. We were excited again, but we were all very worried. And I was like, well, maybe I'll try to divine and see what's happening here. And so I went to sleep and set the intention of, seeing what was going on, and had a dream that about the baby, and it was a little girl, and she was brown. She was very brown, and and it could go all kinds of ways. Black people have colors in their family. It's so significant that she was brown, and she had a full head of hair. And she had a mole on her arm, and she was 4 pounds. So I told my mother, she's going to be small, but she'll be healthy. So a few months later, she had Jasmine, and Jasmine was brown, and she had a full head of hair, and she had a mole on her arm, and she was exactly 4 pounds, but healthy. And so those are my 3 stories. And like I said, I'm not gonna, put a lot of fluff on them. I just wanted to tell you what happened. I don't do lottery numbers. I can't tell if your ex is coming back or anything like that. Probably they shouldn't. I can tell you that. But I just wanted to share with you that, I don't know if it's free will or, you're talking about free will. There is a way to know what's happening. We don't have to worry. We can find out. You don't have to come to me. If I could do this, anybody could do this. But I have a lot of stories like this, but I just wanted to let you know that there is a way to get peace. There's a way to see what's happening. Thanks.